which some people think means I can be their personal seamstress. I'm used to this problem and I don't mind helping out, but I never work for free. My pregnant friend recently reached out to me and asked me if I could make her wedding dress and sent me a picture of the idea she had in mind. It isn't exactly a simple dress, but it's also not the most complex I've ever done either. I told her I could for sure do this for her and it would cost around 600 pounds. She was shocked at this and told me that she thought I'd do it for free and just pay for the materials. Why would she assume that? I pointed out how many hours this would take me to do and all the hand embroidery needed. Then I explained I was doing this for a quarter of the price I charge other people because she's my friend. At this point, she started to get very upset, telling me I have no idea how much stress she's under with the wedding and the fact she's pregnant and how money is tight and how this should be my wedding gift to her and how great it looked in my portfolio. I don't think I'm being unreasonable to want some money for this, but other friends are telling me it's horrible how I'm wanting to charge her for this and it's not like I'm a high-end bridal shop. So, am I being unreasonable? No, your friends suck.
Storytime about how I scammed my followers out of $20,000. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I repeat, this is not my story time. I started out as an influencer on Instagram a few years ago. A few of my posts went viral and after a month I had 1 million followers. Suddenly I had so many brands reaching out to me. Some of the brands I had never heard of, so I didn't really answer back. But I did start working with some brands that I did know. The only problem was that they would only pay me about $70 to $100 per post. By the way, I had a lot of debt at the time, so only making that much was not working for me. I decided to ask for more money, but some of the brands just wouldn't pay it. So by the end of the first month, I had only made about $500. That was not enough to pay my rent, and I was not about to get a day job. I had 1 million followers on Instagram. I was a glorified influencer. So instead, I started reaching out to some of these brands that I had never heard of before. One of them was offering me $5,000 to post a link on my story for 3 days. Of course, I accepted. Part of me thought that it was a scam, but I didn't care at the time. I needed the money. After 3 days of posting the link, they paid me the $5,000. I was able to pay my rent, my car insurance, and my phone bill. But here's the thing. I started getting a bunch of DMs from my followers who were super angry. They were calling me a scammer and a bunch of other names. So I decided to do some investigating, and I found out that the whole thing was a scam. Part two of how I scammed my followers out of $20,000. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I was sending me an Instagram. When I started seeing all the angry messages from my followers, I asked them what was wrong. One girl sent me screenshots of all the stuff that she had bought with the link that I posted. She told me that she Googled the company and that it was a scam. So I decided not to reply back to her. I wrote to the company and told them that I was getting a lot of hate messages. But of course, the company ghosted me. I saw 5 other messages and they were all basically saying the same thing. That the website was a total scam and that they had purchased stuff off of it. But here's the thing. For the first time, I had money. So I decided to just ignore it, which I know is a bad thing, but it's also their fault for not doing their research. But I did learn my lesson. After that, I Googled every single company that ever reached out to me. But here's where it gets worse. 2 weeks later, I get another $5,000 check from the same company. But I was so happy. I deposited that check really fast. So here's what I had to do. I blocked every single person who told me that the website was a scam. And then I just tried to forget about it. I also had to delete all the hate comments. And a few weeks after that, I get another $5,000 check. I had $15,000 in the bank. Part three of how I scammed my followers out of $20,000. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I was sending me an Instagram. I had made $15,000 from all of the scams. But it didn't stop there. A few weeks later, I got another $5,000 check. So in total, I had $20,000. This was the most money I'd ever had in my life, and I was not about to send it back. But I was still getting a lot of hate on Instagram. I ended up blocking over 500 people. And then finally, the company reached out to me. I told them my followers were saying that they were scamming them, but the company made up some excuse saying that the shipments had been delayed and that my followers would receive all their purchases. Then they offered me another $5,000 to post a different link. And guess what? Of course I accepted. They offered me $7,000 this time. I knew very well that this was probably another scam, but I still accepted. A few days later, I posted the link, but the payment never came. I waited a few weeks before contacting the company, and they ghosted me. I wrote to them every single day, but I never got the $7,000. So guess what? I also got scammed too. It's been 2 years since that happened, and I don't feel bad about it. I now make a lot more money than $20,000, but we all start somewhere. Part of me does feel guilty for scamming everyone, so sometimes I think about possibly paying them back. And don't start trying to guess in the comments who I am. You will never guess. Or maybe you will. Whatever, I'm $20,000 richer. Bye.
Storytime, my boyfriend beat up his ex-girlfriend because she tried to kill me. So it was my sophomore year in high school and I had just gotten with this guy who was fresh out of a relationship. And let me tell you a little bit about his ex-girlfriend. So before him and I even started dating, him and his ex-girlfriend were together for 2 years. And guys, this girl was fucking psychotic. Let me give you a quick example. Last year, I had a class with him and her, and the teachers assigned partners for this one project. Well, her boyfriend got paired up with this other girl. And anybody who would even talk to her boyfriend would get jumped by her and 8 of her friends. So his girlfriend starts being buddy-buddy with this girl. And his girlfriend goes, "Oh, do you want to come to the bathroom to hit my dab pen?" So the girl says yeah, thinking that she's being all nice and shit. So they both go to the bathroom and they're gone for like 25 minutes. So I asked to go to the bathroom because I want to see what's going on. So I walk into the auditorium bathroom and nobody's really around that bathroom. And this bitch is getting beat the fuck up. Like for part 2. Okay, part 2. Okay, so like I said, I walk in and this bitch is getting her shit rocked. Like there were like 5 girls in there beating the shit out of her. All of them just look at me, so I walk out and go back to the classroom. And the one girl went to the hospital and the other girl got suspended. So back to present day. So after school that day, I get a ride with him and his friends to his house. Well, as we're all driving to his house, we realize that his ex-girlfriend's car is right behind us. And it's literally her and all of her friends. And at this point, my boyfriend's really fed up with her shit. Because she keeps following me around school, texting me saying she's gonna kill me, saying he got her pregnant, always says that he's been cheating on me with her. So my boyfriend pulls over the car, and at this point, I think it's a trap. I'm like, oh shit, he's gonna let me get beat the fuck up. Well, he tells me to stay in the car. He gets out and walks over to her driver's door and tells her to get out of the car. So her and all her friends get out, and one of her friends starts punching him. While he's distracted with that, his ex runs over to the car, opens the door, and pulls out a fucking knife. Like for part 3. Okay, part 3. She fucking has a knife up to my neck, screaming at me. And I'm staying quiet as fuck because I do not want to get my throat slit by this bitch. So all I see is my boyfriend rip this bitch out of the car and start stomping her in the fucking ground. And whenever he went and ripped her out of the car, the knife like slashed my leg open, so there's fucking blood everywhere. And we're like at the beginning of his cul-de-sac, so all the fucking neighbors are outside watching him stomp this bitch into the ground. And then one of her friends comes around the other side of the car, grabs me by my hair, rips me out of the car, starts beating the shit out of me. So then one of his friends starts beating up that bitch too. So obviously the cops were called. My boyfriend went to jail. She also went to jail. And after that happened, my parents made me move schools. But after that, word got around that they were dating again. Good luck to the next bitch.
Am I wrong for refusing to pay my sister's bill and giving her information to the restaurant after she ditched me? This happened last night. My sister and her boyfriend recently moved to a town next to mine. I was excited as we'll be able to see more of each other now. Nearby, there's a downtown center that has a lot of shopping, restaurants, galleries, etc. There is one upscale restaurant that both my husband and I love. A dinner for 2 will run you about $200 to $250, so it's not a place we frequently go to. My sister called me last week and invited us out to dinner with them at the restaurant last night. I reminded her it was an upscale place and to take a look at the menu beforehand because they are pricey and we can go somewhere else, tons of other great places to choose from. She said they still wanted to go. We hadn't been there in a while, so we accepted. Dinner was great. At the end of the meal, my sister excuses herself to the bathroom, and when she doesn't come back relatively soon, her boyfriend goes to find her. After a while, neither of them comes back. We go to check for them and they're gone. I call and text her and she texts me back saying that they've left but thanks for dinner. It was just as amazing as you said it would be. I asked her what she meant, but no response. I texted again, asking if she really just stuck us with the bill, and no response. I then texted that I never agreed to pay for them and that she had 30 minutes to come back to the restaurant, or I'll give the restaurant all her information and they will likely involve the police. No response. At the 30-minute mark, I called and texted and got no response. So I stayed true to my word. I paid for mine and my husband's portion and gave all her information to the manager for their portion and then left. The next day, she called me back upset that she's been getting calls from the restaurant asking her to come pay or they'll contact the police. No shit, Sherlock. I said I'm not surprised since she skipped out on her bill. She said she thought I was paying the tab since I paid for our dinners in the past. I have paid for her and me only, and dinners where the total tab was $60 max. I said this was obviously different than all the other times we met for dinner. This was all 4 of us and at an upscale restaurant, and I was not paying the $450 tab and she had to cover her portion. I reminded her that she invited us out and chose the restaurant. I specifically asked if she wanted to go somewhere else, but she is the one who insisted on going to this restaurant. She then said she thought I just paid, but when I asked the waiter for separate checks, she realized I wasn't and left for the bathroom planning to ditch. I said that since the restaurant hadn't contacted the police yet, all she had to do was go in and pay and it would be settled. She didn't want to do that because it would be too embarrassing and asked me to cover it. I again said no and that she had to take care of it herself. Clearly, I will not be paying for anything ever again. Our family has now gotten involved and I am being pressured to just pay the bill. So am I wrong if I don't and let the restaurant call the police? Oh my gosh. Yo, there's also an edit on here showing that the sister is in her mid-30s, so it's not like she's a teenager who can't pay for her stuff. This girl is a grown adult.
Story time about how I got catfished and almost kidnapped. So because I just turned 18, I thought about signing up for a few dating apps. So I did. I matched with this really cute guy named Chris. And we chatted on the app for like 3 weeks back and forth. I would ask him to FaceTime, but he would always make up some lame excuse. P.S. ladies, there's a video dating app coming out soon, so no more lame excuses for sus boys. Anyways, so finally after asking him a bunch of times to hang out, we finally made plans to meet up for dinner. He gave me the address to the place and it was like 20 minutes from where I lived. And he told me that he was going to be wearing a baseball cap, and I told him that I was going to be wearing a white shirt and green jeans. So I took an Uber and got there at like 6 o'clock, but when I got in there, I didn't see anybody with a baseball cap on. While I'm looking around, all of a sudden somebody I'm texting my friend that I just got fucking catfished. And while I was going in and out of my purse, I dropped my phone on the floor. And I know you're probably thinking, oh, why the hell is she telling us that part about the phone? Well, because I'm pretty sure that he put something in my drink. No, like he 100% put something in my fucking drink. So I hurry up and eat my food and drink my drink because I just wanted to get the hell out of there. And my drink tasted totally fine, like there was no bitterness or anything. So while he was getting the check, I went to the bathroom to call my friend. And as soon as I get into the bathroom, I start feeling so off. And no, it was not my anxiety from sus Chris. I also felt like I was going to throw up. And my friend wasn't picking up at all. So I tried sharing my location with her, which I usually never do, like for part 3. Part 3 of how I got catfished and almost kidnapped. So like I said, I shared my location with her, but it took me forever because I had no control over my body whatsoever. And I was throwing up uncontrollably. So she immediately knew that something was wrong because I wouldn't just randomly share my location with her. So that's when I blacked out, and I really only remember a few things that happened after that. Like I remember being out in the parking lot and him walking me to a car, which I thought was my Uber. So I remember waking up in the car and looking at the dashboard and it being 9 o'clock at night. So I start to wake up a little bit and I realize that I'm in somebody else's car and I can't find my phone anywhere. I'm pretty sure I blacked out again after that because the last thing I remember is a police officer standing over me and shining a flashlight in my face. So apparently there's security footage of him pulling off into a gas station and putting me in the trunk, and he was able to make it all the way to South Carolina from West Virginia. So my best friend shared my location with authorities. I want to spread awareness that things like this actually do happen. If a picture's worth 1,000 words, a video's worth 1,000,000. So click the link in my bio for a safer option of online dating. Love you guys. Okay, so story time about how I got caught sneaking out of my house. So a little background information, I was 15 years old and a freshman in high school, and this happened about a month or so before school ended. I honestly had a pretty normal life before this happened. There was nothing exciting or crazy going on, no drama or anything like that, except there was this one junior that I had a huge crush on, and we are going to call him Kevin. Kevin was known for going after freshmen. I mean, we all know that one guy, but I thought he was really interested in me. Why? Because I was stupid. Yeah. Well, with that being said, I was never really allowed to see Kevin because my mom was extremely strict since she had my sister whenever she was 17. I was never really allowed to see him outside of school unless like we were in a big group of people or my mom just didn't know that he was going to be there, or any guy for that matter. So like I said, she had my sister whenever she was 17, so she would never let us go out with boys, be out after dark. She was just super protective. Like, we weren't even allowed to sleep over at our friends for a whole weekend. We were only allowed to sleep over one day out of the week at a friend's house. I felt like I was living in a prison, which I pretty much was, but you know. On the other hand, my dad didn't really care what my sister and I did as long as we weren't like, you know, doing meth on the curb. He didn't care, but he would always agree with my mom because, as he always says, happy wife, happy life. So whatever my mom said kind of, you know, was the overall decision. The worst part was I wasn't even the one that my mom needed to be worried about. My older sister was way worse than I was. And she didn't even care whenever she would get in trouble. So it was like, I don't know, maybe they just didn't want me to be like her. Well, with that being said, Kevin invited me to a party that he was throwing. And of course I knew that I could not tell my mom, or else I would probably be grounded for even asking her if I could go to a freaking party. So what did I decide to do? I decided that for the first time in my pubescent life, I would be a little bit rebellious and sneak out to go to this party. So I invite my friend Anna over and I tell her about the whole plan. And the plan was I was going to sneak out of my house whenever my parents were asleep. That's kind of like the most classic thing you could do when you're sneaking out. I may or may not have looked up a few YouTube videos on how to sneak out, but you know. Anyway, so my bedroom was right above the garage roof, so I decided that I would climb out my window, jump onto the roof, and then jump down, and we would run over to an Uber that was parked at my neighbor's house, because sadly I could not drive. The plan was honestly just like perfect. So Wednesday, I decided that I need to find something to wear because the party was on Friday. I really never been to a high school party before, but I also wanted to make sure that this outfit would be hot enough to get the attention of Kevin. Well, eventually I find something that I think will work. But of course, as I am trying it on, who barges in my room without knocking? My mother. I literally had no privacy in that house, and it was ridiculous. And I literally don't have a top on, no bra or anything. I'm trying on this mini skirt. Anyways, so she comes in my room and she gives me this like stank look. And she was like, where do you think you're going in that skirt? And then she says, better yet, who are you trying to let in that skirt? And I was like, what the fuck? First of all, yeah, that's how my mom was. She always thought that my sisters and I were doing something, having sex, doing drugs. She always thought the worst of us. Love that. Again with the snoring. My dog literally does not stop snoring. Yeah, I'm talking about you. Anyway, so my response was, I was trying it on because Anna said that if I grew out of it, she might want it. So then she rolls her eyes and she's like, well, it doesn't fit, so I think you can give it to Anna. Like, girl, shut up. Nobody asked your opinion in the first place. Go do my laundry or something, period. That sounded a little fucked up, but still. So at that point, I start second guessing my whole entire plan. Like, one time my older sister got caught smoking pot, and my mom put her in some weird summer camp for kids with behavioral issues. Like, what the fuck? She also sold my sister's car and got her a bus pass. So I'm not gonna lie, I was definitely nervous. I had to do my eyeliner off camera because I knew it was gonna be a fail if I did it on camera. So anyways, back to the story. So Friday night comes around. I'm super excited, texting Kevin. He's texting me about how excited he is. Anna got a ride to my house after school, and we spent most of the day doing random shit. Like, we went swimming for a little bit, we watched a few movies. And Anna had went to a few parties before this, but her parents were kind of strict like mine. She just had the balls to sneak out 24/7 and everything like that. So yeah. Then at 10:30, we decided to finally get ready for this party. We did our makeup, got dressed, but we had pajamas on over our party outfits just because in case my mom barged in like she usually does, we would be prepared. So around 11 o'clock, my parents turned off all the lights and we called the Uber to my neighbor's address. And as we are climbing out my window, we hear a bunch of noises sounding like another window opening, so we stop dead in our tracks. And then all of a sudden, I see that it is my sister and her two best friends who were sleeping over. So she looks at me and she's like, what the fuck are you doing? And then I look at her like, what the fuck are you doing? Because neither of us were supposed to be sneaking out. So don't ask me what I'm doing so you can go and rat to our mom about this. So it turns out that her and I were going to the same party and they were sneaking out at the same time because they saw mine and Anna's Uber pull up at our neighbor's and they thought that it was theirs. So they ended up just canceling their Uber and riding with us. Because if she would have even tried to sneak back into the house, like if she would have made a creak, my mom would have heard it and it wouldn't have been pretty. She probably would have went back to behavioral kids camp. So we all get into Anna's Uber and head to the party. And I'm not gonna lie, this was the first time that my sister and I had actually like hung out. My mom wouldn't really let me hang out with her anyways because she would have always considered the bad kid and I was always considered the goody two-shoes. Well, once we got to the party, I found Kevin. He got me a drink, we started talking. And then he said he wanted us to have some alone time. So what did we do? We went out on the balcony. I thought this kid was going to try and make a move on me, but he didn't. He was literally like a little puss. So I decided that I was going to be the first one to make the move. So as soon as I'm about to kiss him, I hear somebody yell, "Cops are here!" Girl, the one night I decided to sneak out. The one night. This was not in any of the YouTube videos I watched on how to sneak out. So at this point, I am in a full panic mode. All I see is Anna and a bunch of other kids running. So I decide to jump off of a 10-foot, maybe 12-foot up balcony. As we're running through the woods, I see lights flashing behind us, and I hear kids getting grabbed by cops and more sirens. It was just a shit show. And all I can think about is the fact that my mom is going to murder me if I get caught. So I decide to text my sister and ask where the hell she is, because she was hooking up with some guy who parents own the house that the party was at. And she goes, "I'm hiding in the attic. Where are you?" Now, as soon as I was about to answer that text, I definitely shouldn't have been texting and running while the cops were running after us, because eventually I slipped and fell into this little creek and I cut my hand really bad on a rock. Love that for me. So while I'm like pretty much bleeding out, I'm also trying to calm Anna down because Anna cannot handle blood. So she's like about to pass out, you know. Well, once we got to the road, I realized I was covered in fucking blood all over me, all over my face. So we decided to call an ambulance, and we thought that, you know, oh, it's okay if we call an ambulance, we can just give them fake names. That's not what happened. You can't just give an ambulance a fake name, I found out, and you can't just give, like, you know, the doctors a fake name. So once the ambulance showed up, I went into shock from how much blood I was losing, and probably because I was also watching all the blood come out. And then I woke up in the hospital a little bit later. Anna was not there, but my angry ass mother was sitting in the chair next to me, and my sister was staring at me smiling because she didn't get caught. She happened to make it home in time, which I don't even know how. I really don't know how, because I could have swore that it only took us like 20 minutes to run to the street and then get to the hospital. I don't know. My mom never found out about my sister, but I was grounded for 2 months and had to wait to drive till I was 17. Okay, everybody, that is the end of today's story time. If you guys have ever snuck out, let me know down below in the comments. Did you get caught? Did you get away with it? If you guys like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more of me, maybe hit the subscribe button down below. And if you want to know when I post my next video, make sure to click that bell.
Why are you going high? Push me to the side. Let's keep going on and I ain't getting tired. Yeah, you try to crucify all the good inside. You go and call 911, but I already died. Yeah, we about it. Say now, what you say now? Whoa. I'm used to say goodbye, nothing new to me. Baby, I'm trying to survive, and I know that you believe in a world with happy endings. So tired of pretending that everything's alright while I stay asleep. So let it go. Don't wanna carry all this pain. I know that you don't wanna shelter me. So I'm falling down below.
Storytime about how my fiance cheated on me with my niece who's 18 years old. Disclaimers is not my storytime, was sent me on Instagram. My fiance and I have been together a total of 3 years. We got engaged exactly 1 year ago. When we first met, he was totally obsessed with me. He begged me to go out on dates with him, but I never said yes. He met their friends and my friends ended up giving him my address. So this man would send me gifts every single week. It started out with flowers, then he would send me champagne, then he started sending me designer bags. When I told my parents all of this, they were really impressed by his wealth. And ultimately, they convinced me to call him and thank him for her the gifts. And when I did that, he begged me to go on a date with him. I was scared of being impolite, so I said yes. But looking back, I should have listened to my instinct and not gone on the date. We went on a total of 3 dates. And after that, he started talking about marriage. I told him it was way too soon and that I didn't even know if I had feelings for him. But of course, he insisted for months. My parents really pressured me into saying yes to being his girlfriend, so I did. After 6 months, I was finally starting to feel something for him. Here are a few reasons why I never really liked him. He was rude to all of the waiters and servers at restaurants. He talked bad about his mom and his friends to me all the time. And he would constantly talk down to other women. But like I said, finally, I was starting to like him a little bit. He asked me to marry him and everything was fine. Up until he met my 17-year-old niece. He started buying her designer bags and cell phones. Part 2 is up. Part 2 of how my fiance cheated on me with my niece. Disclaimer, it's not my story time. I was sending me on Instagram. When my fiance first met my niece, he would compliment her so much about her looks. He told her in front of my entire family that she was so beautiful and womanly for being so young. This made my family and I really uncomfortable. But my niece was super flattered. And before I knew it, he was buying her gifts. He went behind my back and bought her the latest iPhone. And then he gifted it to her at our next family event. My sister, who is my niece's mom, said no. She didn't want to accept the gift, but my niece begged her. The following weekend was my niece's birthday. That day, he gave her a Gucci purse. Once again, my sister said she couldn't accept that, but my fiance insisted. That's when he told me and my sister that he always wanted a daughter like my niece, and that he was so proud of her for doing so well in school. Obviously, he was lying. After my niece's birthday, I told my fiance to stop buying her gifts. I told him that it was incredibly inappropriate and that he needed to take them back. That's when he told me that he could do whatever he wanted and he didn't need my permission to give my niece gifts. By this point, I was falling out of love with him. This is when he started inviting my niece over to our house for dinners. He would cook lavish meals for my niece and I. This is also when he started taking her to the mall for shopping trips. And the only reason I found out was because I tracked his phone. Part 3 is up. Part 3 of how my fiance cheated on me with my young niece. When I tracked his phone, I saw that he was at the mall. I called him 5 times and he wouldn't answer his cell phone. Finally, I call my sister and I ask her if my niece is home. That's when she tells me my niece had left the house with her friends 4 hours ago. And that's exactly the amount of time that my fiance had been out of the house. I told my sister I was really concerned about the relationship between them and that we needed to look for them right away. By the way, how stupid is he not to realize that I could track him? My sister and I finally reached the mall, but they weren't inside. And we looked everywhere. We started looking through the parking garage and we finally found them. They were in his car full on making out. That's right, my 18-year-old niece and my 36-year-old fiance. My sister pulled my niece out of the car. My fiance jumped out of the car and started defending himself right away. That's when he said that my niece came on to him and that he was trying to stop her from kissing him. That's when my niece spills all the beans. She told us that for 2 weeks he had been taking her everywhere and buying her gifts, that he had even taken her to a hotel room for you know what. My sister called the cops, but the cops said they couldn't do anything about it because she was already 18. But her and I have a feeling that this all started before that. But my niece says no. My fiance, like the coward he is, he grabbed all of his stuff from our apartment that same night and left. And no, I haven't heard from him since. But I took all the money we had in our joint account. Over $200,000. Bye.
I hooked up with my best friend's boyfriend who turned out to be her cousin. So when I was about 18 years old, I had this friend who had a boyfriend that was in another city. I never met him and she always got annoyed when I asked for his pictures. I don't know why she would get so annoyed whenever I'd ask for his pictures, but I just decided not to bother with it. One day, another friend and I went to a club and I immediately hit it off with this guy. He was so my type. He was tall, sporty, with cute brown curls. Me and him talked a little bit more and he was 19 and he said he was visiting family, but he wanted to catch up with some friends first. The chemistry between us was absolutely amazing. I ended up ditching my friend at some point and going alone with him. So about 3 hours later, I finally mustered up the courage to just go in his car and hook up with him. And hooking up was amazing. He's done some things I've never experienced before. After that, he asked for my number and he told me that he hoped we'd do it again. I was basically in love at this point, which I know it's extremely stupid of me because you should never, fall in love with your hookups. But me and him continued texting. 2 days later, my best friend FaceTimed me saying how happy she was her boyfriend came to visit her. And then I asked how he looked like. Part 2 of I hooked up with my best friend's boyfriend who happened to be her cousin. She FaceTimed me saying how happy she was that her boyfriend visited her and I wanted to see how he looked like. So she showed me a picture of him and it looked like him, but the hairstyle was different, so there was no way that it was him, right? I said he was so cute and she's so lucky and that I'm happy for the relationship. I didn't really know how to bring it to her that I met him at a club and slept with him possibly, so I just kept it a secret. She invited me to meet him, so I decided to. I wanted to see how this guy was. So I came over to her place the next day and was shocked to see my hookup open the door. He teased me, asking if I'd stalk him to find this address. I laughed it off saying my friend lived here, and that's when she happily greeted me. I was shocked, it really was him. I was angry at him for cheating on my friend and at myself for enjoyed the hours I slept with him in that damn car. We did hang out for a while. When I went to go to the restroom, he followed me and stopped me before entering. He said I shouldn't tell her and that he only visited because he wanted to finish this deal, and that she'd always been the problem. I asked him what he meant by that, but instead he brushed it off saying he was going to explain it later. So I gave him my number. I hooked up with my best friend's boyfriend who happened to be her cousin, part 3. So I gave him my number and he invited me over for dinner. Assuming he would explain everything and tell me why he lied about visiting his family, I accepted the offer. At the dinner date, he tried being casual, but I told him to cut the BS and explain. So he did. He began telling me that this all started when they were 14 because she had a crush on him. He knew it was wrong but accepted being in a fake relationship with him because he cared about his cousin. At first it was just pictures, but then she asked for more, like kisses, going on dates, and the intimate stuff. He knew it went too far and wanted to stop it, but she told him she would blame him for everything and tell his parents. Only at that moment he was ready to break things off, and he'd done it before the dinner. I didn't know what to say since he was making very serious claims. I felt disgusted, so I just left the restaurant. I called my best friend and asked her if she'd been dating her cousin. She began crying and said she didn't know how to get rid of the feeling she developed for him, and just wanted to be loved. I told her she was disgusting and hung up. They both texted and called me that night. She begged me not to tell her parents. He told me not to tell his parents. He even said he wanted to hook up with me again. Should they respond to them? Let me know in the comments down below.
Am I wrong for ruining my sister-in-law's gender reveal? So I, 31 male, have 3 beautiful daughters, 7, 5, and 2, which for some reason people in my life think I'm not completely happy with. If I had $1 for every time I heard, I bet you wish you had a son, or are you ever gonna try again for a boy, I'd be a millionaire. Look, if my wife got pregnant again and had a boy, my reaction would be the same as the other 3. In my opinion, as long as your child is healthy, who honestly cares? Oh, props to this dad. I never hear guys talk like this. It's so refreshing to hear. The worst and most annoying people towards my wife, give me a son, are my sister-in-law at 29, who has 4 boys and now pregnant with her 5th child, and my mother-in-law. Last Sunday, we were at my mother-in-law's for Sunday lunch, and my sister-in-law said after dessert to come out to the back garden as they had a balloon to announce the gender of their new baby. Well, long story short, she is having another boy. After everyone congratulated her, she made her way to us and said, "I bet you wish just once it would be blue for you guys," then turned to my wife and said, "It's never too late to try again." It royally pissed me off because my oldest was in earshot. I turned to her and said, "Well, actually, Alice, I wouldn't give one of my daughters dirty socks for what boys wear in Europe, and the fact that you base your love on your child's gender says a lot about you as a mother. I don't need a son, so I suggest you take your advice and stick it." She stuttered for a second and then burst into tears, saying I was putting her and her kids down. The mood was ruined, and after that we left. Since then, my in-law said she deserves an apology, and it's been a long-running joke, so I shouldn't have driven my sister-in-law to tears. Wait, what is it called? Can't take what you... Eat what you dish? Can't take what you dish? I can't remember the saying. Am I wrong for asking my sister to get over the fact that I proposed to my girlfriend at her wedding? My sister got married 5 years ago. Her husband's parents were quite rich and they paid for a destination wedding for 5 days. They even paid for the flights and the stay for all the immediate family members. Back then, that was hugely romantic and it felt like a fairy tale. Although we are doing much better financially now, back then I was sure I would never be able to do something like this. I didn't even plan to do this, but I was caught up in the moment and asked my girlfriend to marry me. She said yes, but we did not say anything to anyone. I did not want to step on any toes. A few months later, I bought an engagement ring and we told everyone that I had proposed after a romantic meal at home, and that was that. A few months ago, we went on vacation to the same place my sister got married. My sister, her husband, her 2 kids, me, and my wife. We were getting drunk, having fun, when my wife told them that I had proposed to her outside this very restaurant all those years ago. My sister was pissed and she stormed out. My brother-in-law also feels that it was cheap of me to use his parents' money for a proposal. That's not... What? Cheap of him? You used your parents' money. What the fuck's the difference? It's been weeks and my sister is still cold towards us. I said it happened years ago and to just let it go. She said that she is hurt and that was supposed to be her fabulous wedding. She says that the place and time is memorable to us as a place we agreed to get married, and that it will never be remembered as a place she got married. She was very mad that I hurt her feelings, and now I'm just asking her to let it go. It happened years ago. We never told anyone. Is this as big as a deal as everyone is making it out to be? Am I wrong for proposing all those years ago? Oh my gosh. The entitlement. Like, what is wrong with you? No one knew. Well, who cares? Why? Am I wrong for leaving my son's wedding early after he excluded me from his speech? I have a 23-year-old son, Justin, who got married 2 weeks ago. I wasn't physically involved in Justin's childhood because his mom and I got separated and I had to travel a lot for work, so his stepdad was more available than I was. During his teenage years, Justin started having fights with me, saying stuff like I prioritized work over him and that I'm a Disney parent but was never there for the hard times even though I provided for him financially. But he claimed that it's only because the law made me, which isn't true at all, and I strongly believe his stepdad was feeding lies into him. In the past 3 years, Justin started coming around and I met his then girlfriend, now wife. When I heard that they were getting married, I decided to offer paying for the venue and Justin seemed very appreciative of it. My wife and I attended the wedding and all went well, except when Justin started giving a speech. He kept talking about his mom and stepdad, and nowhere did he mention me, not even with a single word of recognition. I was hurt and devastated. I couldn't help but feel this way. I tried acting normal and kept my composure, but I felt so heavy I decided to leave the wedding early. Justin called asking why I left so early. I said I felt sick, but he kept pushing until I told him that I got upset that he didn't mention me or recognize me in his speech. He said that I was being ridiculous to get upset over that. I asked him to respect how I felt, but he argued he wasn't going to lie to make me happy.
I need someone like you.